The following is a presentation of Earthkeeper Stargate videos. All rights reserved. The text of this channel is available in written format in James Tyberonn's new book entitled 2038, The Next Quantum Leap. It may be ordered online at www.earthkeeper.com. Thank you, and enjoy. Namaste.
Living remnants of the genetic engineering of Atlantis. A Metatronic perspective of the Bigfoot phenomena. Archangel Metatron via James Tyberonn. 2015. Greetings, Masters. I am Metatron, angelic of light. I welcome each of you this magnificent day. I am joined in this session by Tyberonn of the Pleiades, Tyberonn of crystalline service. Dear humans, in the early phases of your planet, prior to duality, and before the fall of the original firmament, the human spirit entered into all forms of life present on the earth plane at that time. This included Devic energies, the kingdom of Fae, of elementals, of plants, animals, and even the mineral kingdom. All of these were experienced by the human soul in etheric form. It was a grand experiment to experience earthen life. It was pseudo-temporal, an in and out soiree. Humans were in photonic light bodies, in etherical astral format, and while the ability to enter into physicality was quite real, it was a non-permanent, semi-physical experiential state. For at the time, the Earth, the Omni-Earth, was in a non-polarity field, governed as such by what is termed the firmament. In this non-polarity phase of the firmament, both space and time were more fluid, less fixed. The pulse and flash of time did not have the same linear chronology as exists in your present Earth. And so when we reference time in the following passages, these are at best intelligent approximations, based on one perspective, for there was not the same measure of days as you consider them in present times. And so from the initial entry into non-polarity Earth, which began approximately, in linear scope, some 12 million years ago, there were myriad variations of life present on the Earth. The godlings, the earlier humans, gradually over time, became more and more physical, yet still retaining levels of great spiritual wisdom. Longevity of physical life extended into thousands of years, and rejuvenation technologies enabled lifespans to extend even further. Not all beings on the Earth were physical. Some were what may be termed dimensional bioplasmic entities, with the ability to exist simultaneously in both physical and non-physical format in multidimensionality. Intelligent life existed in plasmic, electric and photonic bodies. After the fall of the firmament, approximately 110,000 years ago, in linear approximation, the Earth became a duality plane and took on a much different purpose. This has been shared in our previous channel entitled The University of Duality, and in this channel, we will not delve deeply into this topic, in order to focus on the topic requested by the channel James Tyberonn, that of the genetic engineering, and the animal-human hybrid you term as Bigfoot. And so to continue, after the shift into duality, the human entry into the Earth took on differing purpose. Physicality within 3D became much more ingrained, and entrapped, in a manner of speaking, humans within in biology. The human spirit entered into physical biologies, and became much denser. In the early phases of Atlantis, human bodies were varied. There were many variations of biologies inhabited by the human spirit. There were myriad odd mixers of what may be termed half-man/half-beast. Some had scales, feathers and tails. Some were aquatic. Many such biologies had certain innate difficulties, and a uniformity was needed. Accordingly, the temple of purification was established, in which genetic engineering was benevolently utilized to establish an optimal body type for human physical embodiment. For indeed the technological expertise of Atlantis in this phase was extremely advanced in all manners of science and medical knowledge. For at this period, there was great interaction with many extraterrestrial beings, especially benevolent light beings from the Pleiades, Sirius and Arcturus. The crystalline technologies through use of the great crystal of Poseidon enabled not only communication between worlds, but etherical travel between dimensions and universes. And so the original purpose of the Atlantean genetic engineering was of benevolent intent and of highest ethics. This operated in highest good for millennia, until the rise of the Aryan sons of Belial, in the final phase of Atlantis. Genetic engineering then came under a dark control, and genetics became involved in the untoward creation of slave races. Editor's note: this topic has been covered in greater details in earlier channels. Reference The Fall of Atlantis Parts 1, 2 and 3. And so we are aware this is a special session, and so we await your questions on this interesting and complex topic. Question from James Tyberonn: you have spoken in past channels of the Earth having inhabited hollow chasms. Do these subterranean inhabitants include the beings we refer to as Yeti, Sasquatch and Bigfoot? Archangel Metatron responds: no, they do not. These beings also exist, but are not among the Lemurians and early Atlanteans that ventured into the inner earth. Question: can you tell us about the Yeti, and are these the same as the beings called Bigfoot? Metatron: these you refer to as Yeti, Sasquatch or Bigfoot, are mutations of earlier versions of the genetic experiments on Earth, primarily from the second phase of Atlantis some 20 to 25,000 years ago in linear aspect. At that time there were many genetic experiments on your planet. The Sasquatch and Yeti are remnants of the ape-human hybrids. They are absolutely not enlightened beings, neither are they extraterrestrial. These beings do in fact exist, but as a species they are in genetic conflict with nature, and no longer wish to remain on the planet in these altered bodies. That is because these beings, though highly intelligent, are artificially genetically impaired. These massive forms were genetically created using human DNA with that of the ape to create a laboring humanoid beast of enormous endurance and strength, a beast with greater intelligence, human-like intelligence, but with imposed genetic wiring or interfering implants that unplugged certain areas of the brain. These are survivors of what you term the others, the genetic mutants of Atlantis. These are remnants of beings callously created for workforce within mines, farms and forestry. The areas of their brains that allow for emotion and expansive thinking has been artificially impaired within their genetic codes, yet it is the same source that originally inhabited these diminishing creatures that is within a dolphin. But within their genetically engineered bodies this divine spirit is unable to find full expression. These creatures are remnants of an untoward experiment and cannot mentally or emotionally evolve beyond certain limits. These beings did originally possess the term divine intelligence. But they are unable to effectively tap into the higher self because of the sadly interfered genetic disconnections. Only within their great physical endurance capacity, strength, which were genetically enhanced, and their bestial survival instincts are they still able to sustain themselves, and they do so now almost entirely from an animalistic instinctual pattern. And within this dominant bestial pattern the Yeti and Sasquatch are a sad amalgam of mixed DNA. The Sasquatch and Yeti are genetic blends of human with enormous apes. Presently these beings function more as highly intelligent animals, with a group consciousness as opposed to an individual. These beings operate in instinctual thought patterns and no longer have free will expression or humanesque emotion. Because of this, they truly cannot evolve, as they do not have functional chakric systems. They are somewhat trapped in a sad dilemma of unnatural opposition to divine law, to natural law, yet they persist in languishing temporal defiance of both, because of their physical capacities. But this too now is diminishing, as we will explain. And as a caveat, It is important to note that there were other varieties of such abhorrent mutation experiments involving birds, reptiles, and extraordinary combinations involving horses, bovine and feline before the Aryan genetic experiments. Your Edgar Cayce refers in his readings to some of these hybrids and genetic mutations. There are actually several versions of these primate-based beings. The largest, most powerful and intelligent are those of the Himalayas, termed Yeti, and those of the Pacific Northwest and Siberia, termed Sasquatch or Bigfoot. The version of these mutant genetic experimentations that exist in the swamplands of the southern United States, tropical Asia-Pacific, and equatorial South America, are a bit smaller and less intelligent than the larger versions of the Himalayas and Pacific Northwest. The ones referred to as skunk apes or swamp apes were different primate DNA source combination with a lesser content of human DNA. Their primate source is that more closely associated to what is presently the orangutan. And the swamp apes are of a different coloration, that of an orange-brown. The larger of these are the Yeti and Sasquatch. The Yeti can reach massive sizes, up to maximums of 11 to 12 feet in height and weight up to 700 kilograms. The Sasquatch can grow to heights of 10 feet and are capable of achieving maximums of 500 to 600 kilograms in weight. Those termed as the swamp apes or skunk apes are not as large and have different coloration and a somewhat lower intelligence. The Yeti and Sasquatch presently have a life expectancy of approximately 85 to 95 years. Less than 25% of the females are now capable of reproduction, and the reproduction cycle is not annual. Infant and adolescent mortality rates are over 70%. This is due to reduced habitat, inbreeding among a dwindling population, and the resulting birth defects. For these reasons, populations are far fewer than you may imagine, and are vastly and rapidly diminishing. There are less than 1,000 currently on the planet. These beings do not live in the inner chasms of the hollow earth or intra-dimensions of the omni-earth. Their existence is purely within the 3D physical realm. They live in shallow surface caves, remote mountain regions and within your deep forest, jungles and swamplands. They are primarily nocturnal beings. They are an unnatural hybrid species that is dwindling, and in a matter of a few centuries will no longer exist. They are not reproducing, and the faulty genetic deficiencies within inbreeding are a physical factor in their decline. These beings have great wariness of humans, and experience a great dismay and confusion as to their evolvement. They cautiously watch you. They know they are your distant brothers, and with bated anxiety want to be closer to you, but are intelligent enough to know they cannot. Their bodies have evolved to allow them through the massing of thick hair, and thick oily skins to live in extreme locations, and here they live out their final era of life. Their spirits no longer wish to complete, as their genetic limitations are such that they cannot evolve, cannot access their higher self. They are entrapped in a cycle of group consciousness that is very difficult to escape. The genetic filters placed within their biology inhibits their ability to truly access their divine intelligence, and so they are a species of engineered mutants, hybrids that are sadly trapped in a recurring time-phase cycle of animalistic group consciousness patterning on the instinctual physical plane. This is in conflict with the laws of nature. If you were to look within the eyes of one of these beings, you would sense a great confusion, a fleeting sense of despairing sadness. Question: are you saying that Yeti and Sasquatch are the same spirit source as dolphins? Metatron: not now. For they have devolved. Originally the same source, that being of the Sirius binary system, as are many of your species on the planet. But to be clear, whilst it is same origin of source, it is not the same earthly expression, in fact far from it. You see, these creatures cannot and do not express the same vivid emotion, intelligence and joy as do the dolphin, because the bodies in which they are entrapped does not allow them to. In the Aryan Atlantean Engineering, sons of Belial, these beings were designed with controls. They were treated as cattle, yet given injections that prevented them from becoming fully animalistic and allowed for the manipulated control and robotic obedience. The injections were annual and temporarily chemically enhanced the humanistic aspects of the brain. Some of the beings were designed to communicate linguistically for periods of time after the injections were administered. In such phases the emotions and realization of their entrapment were known to them, and created a tangible misery. For in the periods of the chemical activation they were more human than primate. However, in the present time, millennia after the injections, they are almost totally regressed, and operate an instinctual thought pattern and unable to utilize the human aspect. Each had a neural implant that could be sonically activated with debilitating shocks to keep them under control. They are trapped incongruently between the matrix of group soul as is innate to the term the third-dimensional level of the animal kingdom and individual divine consciousness enabled for the human and dolphin. They cannot truly access their higher self, and as such operate in a dilemma between the two. They differ from other members of the animal kingdom, because the animal kingdom is here by choice and purpose. They differ from the dolphin and human because they are essentially lobotomized, isolated from their divine intelligence and emotional expression. They were engineered for a slave-like purpose that was not acceptable. The Yeti and Sasquatch were untoward genetic hybrid experiments, which entrapped life force, but unnaturally, unharmonically so. Thus the few that remain are both attracted to and repulsed by the entrapping conundrum, unable to fit in, unable to find divine expression. And we add that there were literally hundreds of animal-human genetic blend experiments engineered in Atlantis that were untenable, mal-purposed and abominations. As we have said, your Edgar Cayce spoke of this. But because more primate DNA than human DNA was used, it was more successful in the Sasquatch, Yeti and other primate humans, relative to the other horrific results. You see, this was done to humans as well in the Atlantean, Aryan, experimentation. There were indeed semi-covert genetic experimentations by the Aryans that created myriad lab abominations, not unlike your imagery in the island of Dr. Moreau, crossing humans with beasts of many types, birds, horses, bulls and primates, for untoward purpose. For these experiments were extensions of genetic curiosity with no care or concerns for well-being or laws of nature. These experiments were cruel and tests resulted in abhorrent creatures. Lab-birthed humans were used in much the same manner you now use monkeys and rabbits for testing. The test tube humans were lobotomized as well, and considered as automated robotic slave servants. Many parts of the fictional Moreau tale are in fact somewhat similar to what occurred on Aryan. Drugs were frequently required to regulate the human side hormonally, and forms of remote shocks were used for behavioral control. In the mutations that were more human than animal, the relatively short existence was a horrid living nightmare, an abomination. With the Yeti Sasquatch, the intent was to create a powerful creature capable of extremely heavy labor, but to have controls upon their free will, to be remotely controllable, incapable of certain independent thought processes and to be afraid of their controllers. You may wonder why such spirits would choose to inhabit such restricted physical vehicles, and the answer is that fewer and fewer choose to do so, and soon they will no longer exist as a species. The ones remaining desperately wish to be out, but have not as yet found the inner means to escape the entrapment. It may be said that they are enmeshed, trapped within the grid-time gradient, and caught within the animalistic group consciousness in the earth plane. In this sense, they truly are not able to tap into their original consciousness, and are in something of a step-down sluggish field, akin to a semi-dream state. But they are diminishing in numbers, because they no longer have the desire to procreate or the biology to allow normal birthing. In a few centuries they will be gone, totally extinct. These beings are capable of expressing great strength and natural animalistic cunning in survival, and do have an undiffused innate kinship to one another, but are quite aware in their greater aspect of their inability to expand in these corporeal expressions into their true nature and divinity. As we have said, they are in a group field of recurrence, and it is ending. These beings are now more animal in consciousness than human, and as hybrids, do not experience time in the same manner as others of the animal genres or kingdoms. Question to Metatron: there are some who believe the Yeti and Sasquatch are mystical beings and have a message for humanity. Based on what you have shared, is that inaccurate? Metatron: it is inaccurate to assume that because they are enigmatic and mythical to you, that they are highly evolved. They are not. Nor are they extraterrestrial. They are in fact in a state of devolution. Very little of their true and greater nature can be consistently brought forward. So in these bodies, they are not enlightened beings, and while some humans in metaphysics may wish to think of them as evolved consciousness, with messages for humanity and abilities of invisibility, they truly are not. But there is a lesson to be learned, and in a manner of speaking there is also a message, and at the closing of this channel, we will share that message. These mutant beings have in many ways reverted back to an animalistic behavior pattern based on instinct. But they do not, and cannot in their electrically altered vibrational format, fit into natural patterns. And they are aware of this. They do not have true free will in the same manner of humanity, and free will is a defining aspect of divine intelligence. Non-linear dream state. Their sleep cycles are yet capable of a fleeting connection to their divine mind, but in waking state are almost totally severed, blocked. For this reason, they sleep far more than they wake. It can be said that their existence is somewhat surreal, a waking dream state, in a non-linear time aspect. These beings do not fit into the matrix, and cannot continue in the physics and energies of the new Earth. As we have stated, they are intelligent enough to realize that they do not fit, and are conflicted by the desire to be a part of humankind, and an appropriate wary caution of knowing what would occur if they are seen by man. As such they will occasionally observe man from a distance, or in close proximity camouflage, with a vibration of curiosity and deep melancholy. But they will absolutely avoid any deliberate open contact with mankind, for the programmed memory of their harsh treatment is recorded in their instinctual species memory pattern. They are absolutely cognizant of what would occur. These beings are not aggressive, and stories of attacks are largely incorrect. Most are in fact fabricated, just as tales of their direct communication with mankind are generally far-fetched sensationalized exaggerations. Like large primates, they will, when forced, attempt to frighten an aggressor that invades their space, and they will create frightening growls, whoops and shrieking howling noises, and throw rocks to warn those invading their space. But unlike large primates, the Bigfoot will not attack to hold their ground, unless there are juveniles or infants are present. And they will defend to protect their young, as do all mammals. But non-confrontational avoidance is their primary instinctual reaction in all other scenarios. While they live in small groups, and nurture and protect their young, there is no true dominant alpha male. Instincts of dominance were and remain removed. They have no natural predators in their remote habitats. They are not by nature what may be considered predatory hunters. They are not aggressive red meat carnivores. But in extreme environs, they may occasionally consume small game. But this is relatively rare among the Sasquatch. Like the gorilla and bear, they are omnivores and subsist, even in their size, by consuming plants, certain tree barks, insects, forbs, grubs, roots and occasionally fish. In the warmer, more southern regions of Texas, Arkansas and the swamplands of Louisiana and Florida and the equatorial areas of Asia and South America. These beings will occasionally consume fowl and small game, but the primary and preferred diet is vegetation. And keep in mind, the southern and equatorial hybrids are succinctly different from the larger Sasquatch and Yeti. The swamp ape and skunk ape of the warmer regions are not quite as large, nor quite as intelligent, and have a different coloring. More of an orange-brown coloring. As we have said, these smaller versions were of a different DNA mix than that of the Yeti and Sasquatch. Some have speculated that these beings are capable of becoming non-visible at will. This is also totally inaccurate. They do not flux between dimensions or disappear into parallel time frames. They do indeed have an extraordinary ability to camouflage themselves in the indigenous flora of their environment. They have learned how to blend. Once they detect human presence, they can remain silent and motionless as needed to avoid detection. And let us be absolutely clear, they will not knowingly seek direct human contact or interaction, and despite their enormity they are capable of extreme stealth and very rapid movement. The attempts to film and photograph the beings on camera, by luring them to baited areas with food, with human explorers, television crews and researchers nearby, are quite futile. Quite ludicrous. The Sasquatch can very easily sense the human presence as well as the scent and buzz of battery-operated cameras and equipment. The Sasquatch can absolutely smell lithium and alkaline batteries and hear electrical pulses that are outside of the perception of the human ear. The idea that they will respond to a human attempting to mimic their whooping sounds is silly. They are quite clearly aware of the difference in the human vocals as to their own. Now, to be clear, although these hybrid beings are at this time more animalistic in nature, they are extremely intelligent, with reasoning capability, and are remarkably adept, masterfully adept, in their remote environment. They are masters of stealth. And despite their enormity, are quite agile, with excellent limb dexterity, and they are capable of very rapid movements. They are amazingly coordinated and light on their feet, despite their weight. Their musculatory system is quite formidable. Their stealth running stride and leaping ability is quite extraordinary. As rapid and agile as that of a deer. Faster in fact than any other mammal in the remote areas of habitation. Their hand-to-eye coordination is easily superior to that of other primates, and the Sasquatch and Yeti are able to use tools for digging, such as tree limbs, trunks and rocks. They do communicate and signal one another, using knocks, whoops, and high-pitched vocal projections that are beyond the capacity of the human ear. Their skin is very thick, and emits an oil-based coating that gives them great tolerance to temperatures. With such natural insulation, they do not require fire for warmth. Their ability to see in the dark is excellent. Far superior than that of the human. The Sasquatch, in particular, have an extraordinary sensory of smell. This, too, was genetically amplified in order to allow them to detect the presence of toxic gases in very low trace levels in their work in mining. Among your known species of mammals, the bear has the greatest ability of smell, and we tell you the Sasquatch is superior to that of the bear in this sensory attribute. A Sasquatch can detect the trail and scent of a human from great distances. They have the ability to sense the presence and the past trails of humans in the same manner as a bloodhound, but with even greater accuracy. They are able to detect and pinpoint the exact location of other animals, humans and other Sasquatch through their remarkable sensory systems. They do care for one another. They bury their dead in hidden areas, in deep portions of remote surface caves or remote pits, some of which they excavate, and that is why no remnants of their deceased have been found. In most cases, their deaths are simply a case of not waking from the elongated hibernatic sleeps. Because they were engineered to be somewhat robotically controlled, Certain of the sensory capacities were genetically amplified. As a control mechanism, their ability to perceive sound, vibration and smell is well beyond that of any other land-based mammal, including the bear and canine. You see, they were controlled by emissions of ultrasonic electronic sound vibration by the Aryans. As a result of their enhanced vibratory senses, Sasquatch and Yeti have an ability to recognize the presence of humans by picking up the human brainwave from as far as 2 kilometers away. This in a form of enhanced telepathic sensory of thought, and a high-pitched sound sensory similar to the sonar of the dolphin. This is part of the reason their vibratory fields are so electrical in nature. Their artificially engineered auric energies are far different from any other mammal. These electrical energies are sensed by other animals, and generally avoided. The hyper-electrical aspect of the auric field of the Sasquatch is the reason that researchers attempting to track them often discover that their electronic and digital equipment do not function. The electrical nature of the auric energy projected by these altered beings can in certain proximities drain batteries and cause cameras and computers to malfunction. But this electrical field is also a factor in the reason these beings do not fit into natural cyclic rhythms. The altered auric energies of the Sasquatch distort their mental pulse, and as a result these beings are not in synchronicity with lunar and solar cycles, as are other biological life forms on the Earth. This is precisely why their sleeping patterns are distorted, and is the root cause of their incongruency with nature. Their humanesque chakras are thus blocked, yet their physical prowess, strength, agility and dexterity are superb, and these attributes were so designed. This is why the Sasquatch and Yeti have for millennia been able to well sustain themselves in extreme, harsh and remote environments. This is, however, changing in the energy of the new Earth. Question to Metatron from James Tyberonn. You have stated that the Sasquatch have no natural predators. The grizzly bear and Kodiak bear are in some cases the same size. Would the bear in certain scenarios attack the Sasquatch or vice versa? Metatron responds. Both the bear and the Sasquatch have keen instinctual patternings of innate natural understandings. A grizzly or Kodiak bear will know not to attack a grown buffalo or a rattlesnake. Both of the species have, as we have said, extraordinary senses of smell. Therefore the bear and the Sasquatch are very aware of the presence of the other, long before a confrontation would occur. They would each be aware of the other's scent long before they come within visible proximity of one another. The Sasquatch and Yeti were biologically engineered for heavy labor in mines, fields and forests. Giant apes, enormous primates lived alongside humankind thousands of years ago. The fossil remnants of the Gigantopithecus have been found, but there were other variations as well that reached heights varying from 10 to 16 feet in stature. The Gigantopithecus was the primate mixed with human DNA, and that was the basic model of the Yeti and Sasquatch. Just as athletic humans can easily lift their own body weight, the Sasquatch have such strength innately, some having the capacity to lift trees that weigh well over 1,000 pounds. Adult males in their prime can lift as much as a ton. Evidence of unusually placed uprighted trees, horizontally placed limbs, and smaller tree trunks formed into tripod-type cones can be found in certain of their more remote habitats, which are used to mark their territories. The indigenous humans of the Northwest were aware of these territory boundaries, and respected them. The grizzly bear will absolutely avoid the Sasquatch. The extraordinary arm and leg strength of the Sasquatch would be enough to fend off and deter a bear attack. The Sasquatch are also capable of emitting a smell that is a deterrent to bears. Just as humans use pepper sprays to irritate the sensitive nose of the bear, the Sasquatch can produce odorous hormones that irritate the nasal sensory of the bear, and thus naturally repel them from their marked habitational areas. in a very rare and unlikely hypothetical circumstance that a ravenous bear waking from hibernation might be inclined to attack a small juvenile Sasquatch, the guardian adult Sasquatch would absolutely protect the young, and theoretically have the advantage, with more than enough arm strength to snap the neck of the bear. And bear are instinctually aware of the formidable abilities of the larger Sasquatch. But as we have said, the bear will not in normal circumstances attack the larger primate. Nor will the Sasquatch attack the bear. The two in nature will normally live harmoniously in the same vast wilderness and forests. And keep in mind, the Sasquatch is the more intelligent of the two. These beings are nocturnal, and have elaborated sleep patterns. Sleep cycles and dormancy occur on a 3-1 basis. Approximately 30 to 35 hours of sleep semi-sleep for every 10 to 12 hours of waking activity. This due in part to their inability to rhythmically flow with natural pattern, and in part to escape their entrapment in dreamscape. What differentiates this mutated species is that they are not here by choice, whereas all other species of animals are here by choice and with chosen purpose. Question to Metatron from James Tyberonn. This feels very sad. Can we do anything to help them? Metatron responds, yes indeed. You can prevent such genetic experimentation from happening in the future. Humanity in their genetic engineering via the Aryan sons of Belial created abominations that were responsible for great misery. As we have said, the humanoid-animal genetic blends were horrific. Those of the Law of One were aware of this, and opposed it. However, not enough was done to halt it, and this, as well as the misuse of the crystals, led to the sad demise and spiritual downfall of Atlantis. The memory and indeed the lessons are ingrained deeply within the consciousness of the planet, and group mind of humanity. It is the pledge of the Law of One, to never allow these to occur again. The past can be changed, for it is no more fixed than the future. There will be a resurfacing and leap in the technology of genetic engineering knowledge in the years to come. These mistakes cannot reoccur. That is how you help the remnants of Dr. Moreau. And indeed soon, the Sasquatch and Yeti will escape the physical confines in the energies to come. Their chosen extinction is in effect. And in the crystalline energy of the ascension they cannot remain, and will not remain. Dear humans, you cannot, and must not, allow it to happen again, and in so doing you will erase the past and script the future in a better way. And this is their message to you. That is how you help them. By navigating the future that erases the errors of the shadowed past. Such as the Maya of the purposed illusion, of that you refer to as time, on the University of Earth. Dear ones, we say again, and hear our words, just as the Law of One have pledged to never again allow the crystals to be misused. There is indeed a pledge of equal dedication to not allow the genetic engineering to be enacted in abomination. It is part of the ascension, it is your pledge. In the new earth shadow is being removed, and you cannot hide your heads in the sand, or look the other way. Do you understand? Then create it as so. It is year 3 of the new earth, 2015 and beyond are just the beginning. There is a magnificent series of centuries before you, but spiritual navigation is still required. I am Metatron and I share with you these truths. You are truly beloved. And so it is. And it is so.